What is life without water or without electricity? While our ancestors survived without having a direct line to these two basic and essential needs in their homes, what about us today? Dynamic Living, the Total You, would like to invite you, dear viewers, in the next 60 minutes as we are joined here by our representatives from the utility companies that make life modern and convenient for all of us with a life-work philosophy on Linya mo, Sagot ko. I'd like to welcome to the show our friends from Moresco One. I have here Engineer Colin Tarcelo. He is the Opol Service Manager. Good evening sa'yo, Colin.
Good evening, Doc.
Okay, and of course we have Miss Edna Diango. She's the Institutional Manager, Moresco One.
Good evening, Doc, and thank you for inviting us.
And of course, andito ang ating taga-water district, Cagayan de Oro Water District. Paano nga naman kung walang tubig, di po ba? So I'd like to welcome to the show Miss Ladal Sagrado. She's the PR Info Division of Cagayan de Oro Water District.
Good evening, and it's nice to be here, and it's an avenue for bringing COWD closer to the public.
Yes, closer to their homes, na? Engineer Lyndon Butron, he's the OIC Planning and Design Division, Water District also. Maayong gabi sa inyo, Engineer.
Good evening, Doc.
And hopefully, you will be able to answer our concerns no, tungkol sa tubig kasi nga naman napakahalaga ng tubig at ng kuryente. I'd like to start off by asking Water District and Moresco. Alam naman natin na napaka-importante ng inyong services na binibigay sa mga tao. No? So how did it start? Like Moresco One, how did you start from the very grassroots level? Diretsuhan na ba kaagad kayo na nagbigay ng kuryente? And si Cagayan de Oro Water District, naging tubig na talaga na tagabigay ng tubig sa taga-Cagayan de Oro?
For Moresco One, we're actually one of the pioneer electric cooperative in the country. So it's first started in Mindanao. No? It's first started with Moresco One. Then all the system and principles of Moresco has been copied to 121 electric cooperatives in the country. So it was actually first started with the Vice President Maning Pilais, who actually initiated the rural electrification law. So right then and onwards, the concept of the rural electrification in the far-flung areas was actually initiated. So the rural electrification law was enacted way back in 1968. So up until now, it's still working. Though various amendments has been created by the law, as of the moment, it's now Republic Act 10531.
So pag sinabi mo, Ma'am Edna, na nag-start kayo as a rural electrification, REA yun, di ba? Nagsimula kayo noon. Pag sinabi natin ganun, you were servicing only the rural areas. Wala pa yung urban areas at the time.
Yes, because if you try to look at the franchise area of Moresco One, it's actually the west part of Misamis Oriental. So some portion of the expanded, let's say, franchise of Moresco One were actually barangays of the hinterland barangays of Cagayan de Oro.
So yung mga malalayo talaga na hindi pinupuntahan, and you were able to give services to these people.
Yes, the areas were actually considered then at the level of the business as non-viable. So yun ang pinupuntahan talaga ng mga electric cooperatives to really light up the areas doon sa mga hindi masyadong viable for the business.
Paano niyo sinabi po, na pag sinabi ninyo na heto ay cooperative kayo, does it mean na ang mga tao ninyo, engineer, kailangang members sila para sila maka-avail ng inyong services?
Yes, Doc. Under our bylaws, kailangan nating ma-member first before magiging tayong account holder ng Moresco One. So they need to be a member first before taking account with Moresco One.
So in other words, the very basic requirement for them to be able to avail of electricity na you are providing for they should be a member.
Yes.
So kung minus that one, hindi po pwede kahit sino lang pala.
No, because being a member, parang yun ang starting point mo that you can now demand services from Moresco One. So you have to be a member first prior to the acquisition of the account.
Okay. What about sa Cagayan de Oro Water District? Sa kanila kasi, it's more of a cooperative. Ang Cagayan de Oro Water District, ano ang sistema naman ninyo?
It's actually a government-owned and controlled corporation. And just to give a brief history, before it was the water services was handled by and managed by NAWASA. And then starting August 1, 1973, when there was this Provincial Water Utilities Act of 1973, the water districts were created. And COWD is fortunately, the very first water district to be created in the entire country.
So parang first sila, first din kayo. So napakaswerte naman namin ngayon sa Dynamic Living at first ang aking mga guests. So if you were to compare the very beginning of where you started, syempre, hindi pa kayo siguro nandun, ano? Pero you must have read the history of your company and you would have known kung gaano ka lang karami ang inyong siniservice noon at that time and today. If you were to compare that with today's operations that you have, would you say na you have grown by leaps and bounds?
Sobra-sobra. We started from Nawasa. We had 3,500 connections, and now we are serving close to 86,000.
So malayo, malaki talagang the leap that you had in terms of serving the number of people in Cagayan de Oro. What about sa inyo naman po?
Before, nobody is actually believing that we can electrify the far-flung area. It's just para ba siyang impossible dream, no, for the electric cooperatives. But when we actually proved them wrong that kaya talagang i-electrify yung mga even non-viable areas, people are started claiming baka parang it's a basic right now having electricity. So compared way back in 1960s and up to now, parang ang laki-laki ng difference, no. It started only for about mga 25 incorporators, and now we grew up to 78,000 consumers.
So malaki talagang, you have done so much for these people already because I would remember in the 1960s, so nagko-compute na yung mga viewers natin ng aking edad. So in the 1960s, talagang walang kuryente, nakalampara, di ba?
Yes.
Oo, mag-aaral ka, ewan ko kung naabot ninyo engineer yon. Kayo kaya, Ledel, naabot ninyo yon, huwag nyo lang sabihin, para hindi lang i-compute yung age ninyo, na kandila lang po ang ginagamit namin para mag-aral kami, no? Way back then. So ngayon, everybody is already so blessed na andyan na yung tubig, tumutulo na lang sa gripo. Nung araw, nag-iigib pa kami sa balon. So ganun-ganun ang buhay nung araw. And today, there's already a difference. So ano-anong areas ang covered ninyo?
For Moresco 1, we are in our original franchise law. No? We are granted only 10 municipalities, but we've been expanding the hinterland barangays of Cagayan de Oro and even the 17 barangays of Talakag, Bukidnon. So, medyo malaki na talaga siya yung as compared to the original franchise.
Okay, what about water district engineer? Paano kayo? Gaano ba ang what areas are you now providing water with?
Approximately 80% of Cagayan de Oro is covered. Then may isang barangay doon sa Taguluad na sa Kasinglot na part yung namin. Then the municipality of Upul.
So yung sinabi po ninyo na 80% nearly covered, merong 20% na hindi. What is the probability of that 20% na makukover din ninyo in the future?
Hopefully, we plan to serve them. They are mostly hinterland barangays, so it would be difficult for us to reach them, to boost the water up to their elevation. But hopefully, in the future, we...
Kasi di ba meron kayong mga
plan
booster
to.
stations,
Yes.
ang tawag niyan, where para bang iaakyat yung tubig kung saan yung medyo, elevated sila. So with that already in place, you believe na this 20% can also avail of water in the near future.
Yeah, we continue to focus on source development so that we may be able to serve them also in the future.
So sa inyo, engineer, alam naman natin na maraming mga electricity distributor, so to speak. Maraming nagbibigay ng mga kuryente sa iba't ibang mga lugar. Like in Cagayan de Oro, like in Region 10, mga ganyan. Marami naman kayo. Or hindi naman marami, may mga kasama tayo na ganun din ang ginagawa kagaya sa inyo. What makes you different from the others?
For electric cooperatives in general, no, our mandate is to electrify talaga yung mga rural areas, no. And by nature, we are non-stock, non-profit, no. So yung rates talaga namin is talagang makukompare natin is somehow cheaper talaga compared with the other utilities. And in terms of services, we can say that we are very comparable with the private utilities. So the advantage is that being a member consumer, you have the ownership of the cooperative and you have representation for the interests of the member consumers. So their interests are being protected under the bylaws of the cooperative.
So bakit rural lang ang inyong target? Bakit hindi kayo pwedeng pumunta din sa mga urban areas, urban centers? Is it because there's an agreement, internal agreement na, heto, excuse me, bawal kayo dyan ha, kami lang dito. Dito lang kami, ganyan. Is that how you divide areas that you will serve?
Because there's actually a franchise law. No, we cannot go beyond what is given to you by law. So we have these franchise boundaries, which is entirely different from political boundaries. So we are just limited. Maybe in the sooner future, no, there's going to be an open market. No, open market meaning the end consumers can actually have kung saan siya gusto.
Yes.
So papunta din tayo dyan. But in the meantime, the really mandate of Morasco 1 is really to electrify all the franchise area of Morasco 1, which as of the moment, we are 100% barangay energized. We are now into the challenge of electrifying the sitios. Kasi si sitio kasi, wala sa standard, nanganganak si sitio. So, ngayon, isang sitio pa, the following year, nagiging tatlong sitio na siya.
Yes.
So, we really can, para siyang very hard really to establish na talaga isa lang talaga yung sitio or definite sitio. So ngayon, the challenge is how to electrify the far-flung areas.
So, yung sa water district yata, wala kayong problema kasi kayo lang talaga ang nandun, di po ba? So, in terms of competition, wala eh. So, what about the rates of water, for example, sa inyo? Considering na kayo lang naman talaga ang nagsaservice. Sa kanila kasi, dahil cooperative sila, napakababa na kanilang rates, no? So they're very competitive. Sa atin naman sa water district, since wala tayong baseline, kumbaga comparison, dahil kayo lang talaga ang distributor and all, paano po ang rates natin?
As much as possible to make water accessible to everybody, our rates are very reasonable. In fact, our minimum charge of 218.40 is equivalent to 50 drums of potable water at around 4 pesos and 36 centavos per drum.
So ibig sabihin,
it's that reasonable.
afford siya ng tao, no?
Yes.
So, if a household would apply or a consumer would apply, sa inyo kasi, sa Morasco, you have to be a member first, right? Sa inyo, how does one apply para makonektahan siya ng tubig?
So as long as you are in the service area of within the service area of COWD, the basic requirement would be the orientation seminar, because it is where the requirements are explained and all the other water supply concerns you may have will be
So,
answered.
yung sinabi mo, Ladal, gusto kong dugtungan yan. Yung sinabi mo, may orientation seminar kayo.
Yeah.
Kasi ang next follow-up ko question yan, mahalaga kasi yon dahil that's the time na you're able to explain properly to the applicant kung ano ang expectations nila, anong babayaran
Precisely.
nila. So, kung may problema, paano sila, saan sila magbabayad, di po ba?
Yeah. So they will be introduced to the services of COWD. What are their responsibilities? What are the responsibilities of COWD? The due dates for their payments, where they can pay, what do they expect when there are interruptions, and all those things.
So, doon yan sa orientation
Sa
seminar.
orientation.
Sino nagko-conduct noon? Engineer?
May department kami na in charge
Commercial.
sa commercial.
And when they are already finished with the orientation seminar, what happens next? They can already fill up the
Yeah,
forms
yeah, they
and
can
they can
submit,
be given
yeah.
already assured. So how long? From the time na nag-apply sila to the time na magkakaroon sila ng tubig sa kanilang mga faucets, how long the usual average time?
Maybe from the period after they make their payments, it would run around 2 weeks.
Ganun ka, ganun yung time frame para malaman nila na magkakaroon na sila ng tubig.
Yeah.
Opo. Sa inyo naman po, so aside from being a member, dapat kasi member kayo ng cooperative, ano pa mga requirements para naman sila maka-avail?
Well, the basic requirement actually is the occupancy permit issued by the building office. So under 1050 PD 1076, so 1070, the National Building Code, it's actually the exclusive jurisdiction to issue the occupancy permit is lodged actually with the building office. After that, let's just say nasabit na lahat yung mga requirements, which is basic, the attendance to the membership seminar,
So meron din kayong membership seminar
Yes.
na dapat kailangan, kung sa kanila merong orientation seminar, kayo merong membership seminar. How long does it take?
It's only a matter of 2 hours.
Yes.
Aha.
It's,
Sa inyo, sa Water
Yeah,
District?
an hour and a half to 2 hours.
Aha, so ganun kaikli. Kasi akala ko buong araw kailangan nakinig ka doon at makita mo lahat yun. So,
Noong araw, Doc. No? Kasi, ngayon kasi, parang humanap kami ng avenue na talagang para siyang canned. Nandoon na lahat. Sige, manood ka lang doon. Then afterwards, you have your questions, no, entertain. So, let's say, pag ma-submit na lahat yung mga requirements mo, the moment you pay, parang mga 24 hours,
We have these guidelines under the Magna Carta for residential consumers. No? So 72 hours upon payment of your application with the electric cooperative, dapat ma-energize na yung bahay mo.
72 hours. In other words, in 3 days. Sa kanila, 2 weeks nga bago magkatubig sa inyo. Saan bang mas mahirap ikabit? Ang tubig o ang
May
kuryente?
excavation pa kasi.
Okay, sige.
However, there is a qualification. No? Yung 72 hours upon payment is for direct connections namin. No? But for areas na, for example, the one mentioned by Ma'am Edna, yung mga sitio, so medyo
Matagal.
Construction of lines.
may construction of lines pang gagawin. So it's medyo beyond the 72 hours. No? But with Morasco 1 operating guidelines, hindi naman ganun katagal. Like,
Hindi naman umaabot ng isang buwan.
Oo, common problem lang dyan is number
Right
one,
of way,
yung right of way
acquisition.
O kasi baka hindi po pwedeng daanan at hindi pwedeng tayuan ng
Ayan.
poste. So
Yes.
magkakaproblema sila, si
Yes.
sitio, di ba?
Oo.
Doon ang problem natin. So paano yun? Like for example, heto na, nag-apply na, nagpa-member na, tapos na sa orientation seminar. May babayaran ba sila para malagyan ng tubig? Let's start Water District.
We have an installation fee of 1,000, 720 for the meter stand, and 100 for the notarial fee. So more or less, 1,820.
So yun yung kanilang dapat ihanda na pera para sila makabitan.
Yep.
So 1,820. Sa Moresco naman sa electricity.
Well, our basic payment for direct connection, these are buildings or residential units within 45 meters sa existing pole namin.
Direct
Our fee is only 120 pesos.
120 pesos.
Oh, yung
Talaga sa
membership.
tingin ko yung mga nanonood sa akin ngayon, sasabihin na ang sunod na katanungan nito, saan ang opisina ninyo? Pwede kami? Okay, sige, tuloy. So, 120
so
pesos.
practically membership 5 pesos.
5 pesos lang
and-
kasi yung
Yung membership fee,
natin.
my goodness. Meron pa bang nabibili sa 5 piso ngayon?
Kahit
Wala na.
nga, pleti, wala na.
Wala na, kahit na candy. Hindi na yan yung masarap na candy. Tapos,
But,
so 120 plus 5 pesos.
So, lahat na yan.
Part na po yung
So lahat na, kasama na doon.
Yes,
yung sa
but
120.
there are payments that are mandated by law also. For example, yung very popular ngayon na bill deposit or energy deposit natin, which is equivalent of a 1 month estimated consumption ng applicant. So on top of the 120, hinihingan tayo ng bill deposit for...
Which is how much, roughly, ang average natin?
Well, if you are consuming around 100 kilowatt hours, so it's about 700 pesos. But most of our customers are, say, lifeliners,
Let's
yung
say,
marginal na mga bahay. So,
30 kilowatt hours.
mga 30 kilowatt hours lang.
So, ang kanilang mga deposit niya, nasa...
below 500 pesos.
Nasa 200
200
pesos
lang.
siguro.
Ganun.
So plus 120, 320, pwede na, may
Pwede
ilaw
na,
na.
oo.
Ha? So sa inyo naman, 1,820, ano yon, hindi kasali yung 1 month deposit para sa bill.
Wala. We don't have
Installation
that
lang
fee.
talaga.
Yeah.
And you don't request them to deposit.
No.
Aha, so ganun ang ano niya. So
Kasi
now,
ngayon do kasi libre na kasi yung metro. Ang
okay.
Part of Moresco, yung sa mga distribution utility, libre na ang metro at saka yung 45 meters sa service drop.
Aha, so kaya malaking bagay, no? Kaya maliit ang binabayaran nila. So paano 'yon? For example, heto na, we have to inform our viewers pagdating naman sa reading ng metro. At from the time na binasa yung metro nila, gaano naman katagal para sila mabigyan ng ample time to pay, di ba? Kasi dapat alam ng mga viewers natin, paano yung sa Water District?
From the reading date, you count 20 days, and that will be your due date.
So 20 days and then you have to pay that.
Yeah.
Kung hindi ka makabayad kagad on the due date, what happens?
Meron 10% na penalty.
Ano yun? Per day? Per month? Per
No,
year?
for that billing period only.
So
Hindi
yun
siya
yung-
accumulative.
So hindi siya cumulative?
Hindi. For that period lang, na delinquent ka.
Okay. What about sa Moresco naman?
From Moresco 1, kasi wala kaming surcharges, so you're strictly on the prepayment. Let's say 9 days upon receipt of the power bill, you really have to pay. You'll be given 48 hours for the grace period. So after that, talagang maputulan ka na.
Ah, so heto ha, teka, ulitin ko. So, pagka binigyan ka, you're given only 48 hours to settle?
No, 9 days.
9 days.
9 days upon receipt of your power
Sa kanila
bill.
mataas 20 days. So, sa inyo is 9 days.
Yes,
Tapos
because
puputulan ka na within 48 hours.
After 48 hours, you receive a notice of disconnection. Parang reminder sa'yo na nakalimutan mo magbayad. After that would be the time na i-disconnect ka na. Kasi sa Maraskuan, we don't really impose surcharges.
So, kailangan magbayad kayo on time dahil wala naman kayong penalty charges.
Yes, because it would
Pero
be more...
pag na-disconnect naman sila, so magiging mas expensive ba siya?
Reconnection.
For the Moresco 1, Doc, is may reconnection fee tayo, no? Around 67.20 pesos.
67.20.
And then you have to pay the arrears, no? Before.
Na wala namang surcharge.
Wala pong surcharge.
So-
But we have to qualify, Doc, no? Because yung 9 days na nabigay namin for the payment, it is a 1-month consumption equivalent. So, practically, nagamit mo na yung 1 month
Deposit
na
mo.
power before ka nabilan. So, practically, it's around 45
45 days.
days.
45
more
days.
than
So, kasi
45.
ginamit mo na yun
30
Wala
days.
kang deposit di ba? So, yun yung ano. Pero murang-mura pa rin. Ha? Subukan natin magpa-reconnect sa iba kayang utility providers. Di ba talaga naman sasakit ang ulo mo? Sa inyo naman, so pagka ganyan, hindi nakabayad, mag-aano lang kayo, papataw kayo ng surcharge, which is 10%, hindi ninyo i-disconnect.
Hindi. Pero pag second month na, and then you're still delinquent, then of course you receive the notice of disconnection, and same with Moresco, you are given 48 hours. So, ang amin namang advice is, wag mo na antayin yung 48 hours kung talagang kulang yung budget mo, just go to the office and try to arrange for partial payment.
So pwede silang mag-partial payment. So dear viewers, tandaan ninyo, huwag kayong umabot na putulan kayo. Pwede kayong maghangyo, di ba? So kung ang bill mo ay 500, ang pera mo 200, pwede pumunta sa opisina at bayaran mo na yung 200.
Makikipag-arrange ka doon, tapos merong pipirmahan na promissory note.
Kasi
Parang
ayaw ninyong
schedule.
mag-disconnect siguro, ano?
As much as possible.
You don't encourage na huwag silang delinquent dahil magdi-disconnect kayo.
Yeah.
Ang reconnection fee, mahal din ba?
Kung naputulan ka today, this morning, tapos the same day nag-apply ka for reconnection, walang bayad yon. But if lumagpas na, then there is a 300 pesos reconnection fee.
So, ang next tanong natin so billing, nagbayad, o kaya naman, saan sila ngayon pwedeng magbayad? So, syempre, we are interested in knowing na where do our consumers pay their bills. Kasi syempre, isa yan sa big issues, especially na meron tayong mga tao na pupunta doon sa mga kabahayan dahil i-disconnect na nga at hindi nakabayad. Can these people, your workers, accept the payment para hindi sila ma-disconnect? Let's start with engineer.
For Moresco 1, ma'am, we do not allow our field contractors to accept payments. No, we have designated paying stations, and we even tried to make closer our services to our consumer. Now we have opened collection centers per district, and then we have also accredited collecting agents for banks, and partner also with barangays for the collection activity. So, Ma'am Edna can explain further about the partnership.
Yes, we're trying to help really is the burden of paying electricity bills. So that's why we partner with the barangays. We call it financial downloading. Instead of paying directly to the centro, from the far-flung areas, barangay, they have to ride habal-habal, going to the center, paying 500 pesos back
Mas
and
mahal
forth.
pa yung pamasahe nila
Yes,
sa habal-habal
exactly.
kaysa kuryente ninyo.
Yes, we actually have this program, financial downloading. We partner with the barangay council. So, they actually do the collection. So, yung binabayad namin sa mga private namin na mga collectors, binibigay namin sa barangay. So, we train them under the concept of Barangay Economic Enterprise Development Office. So, si barangay na ngayon ang parang kumikikita to help also the economic activities sa kanilang barangay. And at the same time, they're actually helping the constituents na ma-save yung pamasahe nila.
Yes. So, napakaganda ng concept ninyo, no? Kung bagay, everything is actually services redounding back to the consumers. Paano naman sa water district? So, sinong pwedeng mangolekta? Pwede kahit, kunyari, pumunta, kumatok doon at puputulan na. Pwede ba na ibayad niya na lang?
hindi rin allowed ang field personnel no, or any employee to receive payment outside the office. So ang aming apat na offices sa Corrales, sa Tinao, Makasandig, and Kauswagan, all are collecting stations. And then we have 13 accredited collecting banks, and we now accept payment through any debit or ATM card. And for credit card, Visa lang for the meantime.
Yun pwede na immediate na deduct na yung amount
Yeah,
doon.
sa Corrales, no, through our
Pwede
POS
swipe
terminals.
na doon.
Yeah.
Opo.
And then for DBP card holders, they may use their DBP cards in paying their water bills through the DBP ATM machine.
So, ibig sabihin din, you're bringing the services to the households talaga.
Actually.
In other words, hindi siya yung mahirap. Kasi minsan ang problema ng tao ay ang pagbayad. So, kung sobrang haba ng pila, you get discouraged waiting kasi yung entire day mo na sayang. We'll take a very short break, no? I'd like to greet our national viewers also. Magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat dyan na nanonood sa Dynamic Living The Total You. We'll take a very short break, and when we return, we'll continue on discussing with our friends from the utility companies giving us the best service they can. Please stay tuned.
Kumusta ang services sa Moresco o Sipalco, ma'am?
So far, ma'am, wa jud ko ideyaan na ma'am kay taga Lanaw ra man gud mi ma'am. Then okay, makakuan po ko kay naka-stay man po ko pila ka bulan dito nung nagpa-opera ko. So katong pag-anhin ako ma'am atong mga last year, nagyoy something to nga mag-brown out bitaw ma'am. Then pila ka oras, naiha din mo balik.
Actually karon murag okay ra siya karon. Then kanang usay lang good man mong burn out ba pero wala pa yung feedback kung naunsa sila. Mao na ako kakuan kung naunsa sila ba kay dapat untay pahibalo nila ba kung before mag-burn out or dili kay mo kalit lang bitaw og kanang kapalong bisan gabi na kay gagamit bigihapon ta kung gabi na.
So nakita mo naman nga okay man siya pero time nga doon na kay mga panahon nga murag mapalong gid ang kuryente sa makagabi nag-duty mi kagabi nga dugay-dugay gid balik ang kuryente gabi nga kami mga gwardiya diri sa Kapitol. Pero siguro wala po may makabalo nga unsa hinungdan siguro tele short tingali ang kuan sa kuryente tungod sa kadaghan na gamit sa kuryente nga aron nga panahon. Nga usapod tungod tele pud sa kakusog sa init. Nana murang-murang nga kusog kay ang kuan sa kuan kanang kusog kay ang gamit sa kuryente unya labi nang ulay-ulan muna nga perminti mas short ang kuan sa kuryente muna nga matingala lami nga wala may abiso nga inana mag burn out so kami matingala lami nga uy ditsulog ka palong nana so ana pa mga supervisor mo diri nga silang kay basin dali mo balik ng taod-taod pero mga isa ka oras kapin mobalik minon ang kuryente dili kasi magdugay ana.
As of ma'am, sa bisang observation, mag na sila according sa burnout ito ka ma'am na mga gap ma'am ba. Ang uban mo ma'am, wala na aware kung pila ka oras gyud ang power interruption or weekdays, weekends ba or ano ba. Ma-aware mi sa ilang paibalong house angay adlaw nga i-burn out kung sa oras ta pila pud ka oras.
Sa palco manggod ka ng bigla-bigla na bitaw mawala ilang kuryente. Tapos syempre dili ba may aware nga mawala tapos para sa lang kanang labi na gabi ting tulog na sa mga tao nga init kaayo baya. So murag wala may ganahe. Sa permente man na last year pud baya kay sa summer pud inani pud rotating brownout gihapon.
Murag okay naman siguro. Murag okay naman ang ilahang serbisyo siguro kay pagkakaron murag okay man ang mga kuryente wala koy ma-istorya sa ila.
So nga akong ikakuan lang ana ma'am nga ilahang services ilahang sa ilahang pamaagi nga ma-control ng maong brownout. Kay sapon ma'am ako ang brother-in-law na siya shop sa kanang bitang mga technician ma'am sa na siya shop ang mga TV ana makuan iyahang dilid iyahang trabaho.
Sa Sipalco wala na siguro ko ikasuggest. Murag nakita man ako ng serbisyo nga maayo man.
I don't know, pero kanang sa dapat lang i-aware mi nila bitaw para sa nang wala mi kandila or something light sa among balay para maka-charge mi sa among mga cellphone, labi na namin mga emergency, mga inana lang. So suggest lang nako is kanang i-advance mi nila kanang ignan na or something inana.
Welcome back to Dynamic Living, the Total You with our episode, Linya mo, Sagot ko. Sayang, wala ang taga-sipal ko, no? Pero anyways, that will be for another episode here in Dynamic Living. So yung mga nag-comment doon, hintayin nyo lang po ang sipal ko para dyan, no? So I'd like to welcome again to the show our friends from Water District, si Engineer we have here si Ma'am Label, we have also Engineer Lindon, si Ma'am Edna, and si Engineer Colen. So, balikan ko kayo ngayon. So, napag-usapan natin yung proseso, no, na kailangan huwag silang magpa-disconnect. Kasi walang problema sa Moresco, mura lang ang reconnection, so to speak. Medyo okay na rin sa Water District, pero hassle, di ba, sa ilaha nga side. So, what about yung tinatawag nating mga line tampering? Is it common, and what can we tell our viewers about this?
We have problems with unregistered connections. I think it's something that is common to all utilities. But of course, we know it's against the law, and it's punishable by law. And of course, it would be unfair for those who have been paying religiously for the
kasi
consumption
i-connect
that
sa
they
kanila
use.
pagkatapos ang nagbabayad yung isa, hindi sila, di ba? So how are we, like for example, kung may mga problems na ganyan, pupunta lang sila sa inyong office and complain about it, and would you investigate that? Or anong dapat gawin?
Yeah, if there are reports that come to us, then we do the investigation. And kung meron din kaming na-apprehend by ourselves, merong nakita, and then we issue a notice of illegal use, and then they go to the office and try to settle.
Oh, so pwede naman silang file ng kaso pagka ganyan, kung
Yeah.
ayaw pa rin nilang
But as much as possible, we try to come up with a settlement and then encourage them to be registered
consumer.
users.
O kasi ang problem niyan minsan hindi alam ng may-ari ng bahay, nagugulat na lang, sobrang laki ng aking bill para ako may swimming pool. Yung pala ang dami-dami pala nakakabit doon. So yung mga ganyan, this is tampering already, di ba? And so how do you discourage people not to do that, engineer? Meron ba kayong mga ways by which you educate the people na huwag niyong gawin yan kasi that's against the law?
Kasi actually, mas mura ang pa-connect ka sa COWD. Affordable naman,
Yes.
safe pa. Kasi yung mga ginagawa nilang techniques, no, para deliberately, di ba, gumawa ng mga
Yes.
holes dun sa mga pipelines, it's actually, aside sa mali, it's actually ano din, yung opening the chances for contamination,
Yes,
which is
that's true.
more important.
So that brings me to the next question sa inyo, Ma'am Ledel. How safe is our water?
Safe na safe. Dahil wala naman sigurong reported na mga incidents, no, na mga diseases na or mga illnesses
You do
na brought
regular, examination for the
we
water?
have around 80 sampling points all over the service area, and we do regular bacteriological testing.
And chemical also.
Yeah, and once a year we do submit our samples to an accredited laboratory. And then we also do flushing to refresh our lines.
Okay.
Yun.
Kasi mahalaga yun Kaya ko tinanong sa inyo yan because we know that water that comes out to our faucets in our homes are actually water that should be safe, di ba?
Yeah.
Kasi otherwise, bakit pa tayo may tubig kung hindi naman natin pwedeng inumin? Kung hindi naman natatakot naman na tayo na pag naligo yung bata natin, pag na-inom niya yung water na yon, even a droplet or two, nagkakasakit, di ba? So that's the point there. Sa inyo naman po, what about do you meet or encounter cases where tinatamper din nila yung mga linya na yan para, makalibre lang?
Yes, it's actually a violation under Republic Act 7832, the anti-pilferage law. So, nung una, before we actually conducted the information education campaign, medyo marami yung mga na-apprehend natin. But now, parang sa isang buwan, medyo buti may isa, no? Because people now are being educated as to kung mayroon mang manakaw na kuryente, yung mga systems laws, they're actually the one paying it. Lahat tayo, the 78,000 consumers of Moresco 1 is actually paying the systems laws. Kasama na yung nanakaw. So, sila na yung talagang nagtitip na, okay, Moresco 1, parang itong kapitbahay ko, ganito, ganito. So, we usually do the due diligence. It's actually a surveillance. Once na makita namin talaga it's positive, that would be the time that we apprehend according doon sa 7832 na guidelines.
And these people are very much aware na should they be apprehended, merong corresponding na penalty para sa kanila.
Yes, we have actually two. We can actually file a case, criminal and the civil one. The civil one, pwede yung sa mediation kasi pwedeng bayaran eh. Pero yung the act of really getting power, yung para bang nagnakaw ka talaga.
Nagnakaw ka talaga.
Kayo talaga yung gumagawa na kung paano ba pagnakaw. That's a separate thing, no? Kahit babayaran mo pa rin yung civil obligation mo, pero yung the part of the criminal one, pwede
i-pursue yun. So, ang next natin na katanungan would be, as a consumer, how assured am I? So, alam naman natin safety ninyo. You are very much keen on watching over that. Pero how assured am I as a consumer na hetong aking bill na binasa ninyo ng inyong mga taong tagabasa ng bill is really mine? In other words, in terms of accuracy of what is appearing there in my bill, in my statement, is really mine.
Very seldom do we receive complaints as to nagda-doubt kung sa kanila yung reading. Kasi kung medyo mataas man yung consumption, it's usually dahil sa leakages, no? Na nasa sariling pipeline system nila. But sabihin na lang natin human factor. Kung talagang nagkamali, no, yung meter reader, dahil syempre mata naman yung ginagamit pag
Pero
basa
very
ng
rare
meter.
yan.
Yeah, but it's very rare. But they can always come to the office and then we can have it
recomputed
read,
or read.
and
Pero
adjusted.
paano yun, Ledel? Kunyari, ang problem nga ay leakage ng mga pipes na nasa ilalim na hindi naman natin alam. So, paano yun? I-adjust ba natin yung bill ng household na to dahil leakage naman yun habang inaayos yun? Or what is there as a remedy? Kasi, syempre, kung ako si consumer, umabot ako ng 1,000, wala nga naman akong swimming pool Tapos nakita naman natin na heto lang yung regular na monthly ko. So, ano po ang solution natin doon?
So actually, we remind our customers na one way, no, to prevent that is to monitor their readings every month. So any sudden rise in the consumption that is registered can be a positive sign for possible leakage.
Yes.
So the earlier they can have it repaired, so
i-adjust naman yun
but there
accordingly.
will be a discount for that.
Okay. What about naman sa kuryente? Heto naman. Paano to? Engineer?
Well, for Moresco 1, ma'am, we have adopted the advancement of technology. No? Previously, yung common na complaints ng mga consumer, baka nagkamali yung meter reader, hindi binasa talaga.
Hindi marunong magbasa.
Oo,
Kasi
matanda.
matanda na.
Bakit may hina-hire pa ba kayo na hindi marunong tumingin ng mga...
That's actually the allegation, Doc. No? But yun nga.
Ngayon, we adopted the advancement of technology and we adopted the scan and bill. No? So, wala nang magiging human interface, meaning kailangan talaga pumunta yung meter reader doon sa meter to scan the barcode of the meter. So, walang human interface problem because it is now automated. It is being scanned. So, hindi na binabasa, hindi na ini-input ng meter reader namin. So, number one, na-eliminate na namin yung possible human error. At the same time, mas naging mabilis yung pagbabasa ng mga meters because of the technology advancement. At the same time, in terms of safety, again, we adopted the advancement of technology. Yung sa pilferage na side, we have designed our kilowatt-hour meters tamper-free. No? So, malalaman namin kung merong illegal activities ang nangyayari, especially doon sa mga residential customers or even other types of customers.
Pero yung mga ninanakaw na wires, paano yun? Nangyayari yan ha, nangyari sa amin yan. Parang yung wires yata, kinuha. Oo, di ba? So, how do we
On
prevent
our
that?
part, Doc, I think mahirapan siya kasi it's a live line, no? Siguro doon sa mga cable like telephone wires,
Yes.
mga cable TV, mga ganon. Pero on the part of the electrical wirings, parang
Hindi nila kaya
hindi
yun.
masyado.
Kung wala silang takot, they might want to try that, no? So, heto kanina, yung mga viewers natin, they were actually interviewed, and parang ang common ano natin is power shortage or power outage, And kanina, before the start of the show, I was interviewing you, Ma'am Edna, already, and you said something like, sa Moresco, walang brownout. Paano
true.
nangyari yun?
We knew already way back in 2014, we were already briefed by the Department of Energy that there's actually a deficiency of supply come 2015, especially during summer months. So, yun na, kung kinukompute, pino-forecast yan ng mga engineers, kung magkano pa talaga yung kukulangin natin. Kasi kung mag-overcontracting ka din, mas malaki yung effect doon sa rate. So, if you are to forecast and we are to engage into the supply contract, kailangan talaga na yung mga kontrata natin, may binta natin. So, yun ang konsepto. So, nakita na namin ito yung deficiency namin. Fortunately for us, we were able to get power from the geothermal plants. No? It's actually more cheaper because it's a zero-rated tax. So, at the end of the member consumers, mas beneficial sa kanila kasi walang power interruption at hindi din, we're not saying that we do not have the increase. So, meron din talaga increase because we purchase power from the independent power producer instead of the hydropower plants of NPC. So, meron mas yung increase, pero we can actually say it's actually economic.
Very minimal.
Yes.
O kaya naman, halos
least cost possible.
hindi naman siya masakit sa bulsa, so to speak.
Yes.
Kasi kung mag-i-increase ka nga naman ng medyo, para bang pagtingin mo, okay lang kasi maliit lang naman ito. So, ganun ang ginawa niyo.
Yes. Like last month, no, the effect really of the geothermal power plant that we purchased from the Mount Apo is only 40 centavos per kilowatt hour. So, our system's rate is just around 7 pesos and 42 centavos.
So, bakit, Ma'am Edna, kung kaya ninyo na walang power outages sa inyong mga siniserbisyuhan, bakit the other utility companies, in the entire Mindanao area, meron silang mga power outages. Hindi ba nila kayang gayahin yung ginagawa ninyo na heto ipoproject natin para alam natin na heto yung consumption? Lalo na, Ma'am Ledel, di ba, pagka summer, ay nako, dyan yun umaandar ang mga aircon 24/7. Di ba? Kasi mainit na mainit yun At mas maraming tao sa bahay dahil walang pasok yung mga kabataan, di po ba? So, paano, what made you different from the other utility companies? Let's talk about Moresco muna.
Well, for Moresco, it's a tough challenge because we are actually at the center of both private distribution utility. We have to be at par with the Liga and si Palco. If we cannot perform well, talagang pwede kaming kainin, no? Pwede kaming mawala sa mapa. So, really the challenge of Moresco One is really how to make our rates very responsive to the end member consumers while eliminating the rotational blackout. So, we cannot really speak in behalf of the other distribution utility kung how they actually forecast. Kasi meron talagang mga indicatives na it's also very hard na talagang mag-forecast ka, nandun ang indicatives and you have this power supply contract. Paano kung hindi sila dumating? Babayarin mo yun kasi take or pay yun Magamit mo or sell. Let's say you have the 10 megawatt additional power.
Tapos hindi mo na i-dispose lahat
Yes,
yun.
and you only sold for about 50% of the 10 megawatt. So, you really have to absorb the another 50%. So, it's a really big risk on the part of distribution utility. Doon magbe-play yung mga engineers natin.
So, doon kayo naglalaro, Engineer Colin?
Yes.
So, ibig sabihin, baka naman pwede ninyong turuan o kaya naman mag-guide yung iba din para naman na makita nila ano ang aming ginagawa para ma-project namin. Kasi give or take yan you would know na heto yung magiging consumption ninyo for this period of time. So more or less, meron ka talagang idea at papaano mo yun punuan di po ba?
But we cannot speak in behalf sa other utilities. But we can share what we did for Moresco One. As early as 2009, our management has already started the planning for our power supply plan. And our engineers were sent to UP to learn forecasting, especially for the load forecasting natin, demand forecast for the Moresco One. And we have anticipated that for the next years, the supply deficiency will come. And that is why we have categorized our loads, no? Kasi yung power supply planning is somehow medyo mahirap yan, ma'am. Kailangan
O
mong
naman,
maintindihan.
kasi ibig sabihin nun, ako, kunyari, hindi ko maintindihan yan eh. Basta ang naiintindihan ko, kailangan walang brown out. Yun lang yung concern ko, di ba? Di ba, Ma'am Ledel? Kasi nga naman kayo din eh, apektado kayo. Bakit nga naman, Ma'am Ledel, pagka brown out, wala ding tubig? Engineer. Siguro si engineer pwede magsagot niyan.
Kasi Doc, dependent din kasi kami doon sa power. So, balance yan eh.
So, ibig sabihin kung brown out, wala din kayong tubig.
May shutdown temporarily. Pero may standby units kami. Usually more or less 90% sa mga wells namin may kwan na.
So, kailangan talaga, wag silang mag-brown out para hindi din tayo mawala ng tubig, di po ba?
As long as ang brown out is scheduled. So, 30 minutes before the scheduled time, we energize our generator sets already. Kasi iba yung mechanics ng water at saka power. No? Hindi tulad ng pag bumalik yung kuryente, sabay-sabay may kuryente kaagad. Whereas sa water, kailangan mag-build pa ng pressure. Yun ang hindi masyadong naiintindihan ng tao. So, but we have around 90 to 96% capacity pag merong brownouts.
So, how is our water supply now? Like for example, drought El Nino daw tayo So, would you say na bastante yung tubig natin? Teka lang, hindi nyo ba kailangan ng tubig para mapaandar yung inyong mga power lines?
We actually
Kasi kailangan nila ng kuryente para umandar kayo. Hindi nyo kailangan ng tubig?
Kailangan din, Doc. Kasi meron tayong mga IPPs na run by hydropower, meron ding coal, meron ding geothermal. So, it's actually a variety of sources. So, kung summer, so medyo ang maraming andar dyan, either si geothermal or si coal or mga bunker fuels. Pero kung medyo maraming ulan, maraming...
So, hindi masyadong problema?
Parang si 60% of the Mindanao grid is taken really from the hydropower plants.
So, sa inyo na, Ledel, how adequate is our supply now for water?
We have been blessed. Hindi naman tayo tulad ng ibang places na talagang umabot na sa point na mag-rationing ng water. So far, we have been regularly monitoring our pumping water level in all our production wells. And kung meron mang magda-drop, hindi naman yung significant drop na magiging cause for alarm, no? Na possible na madideplete yung mga water sources natin, yung aquifer, yung makakaroon ng saltwater intrusion, hindi naman tayo dumating doon sa point na yun.
So, how do you envision your services, say 10, 20 years or 15 years from today, engineer? Would you say na you are constantly updating your technology para pagdating ng panahon na yan, high-tech din ang ating delivery of water services to our consumers?
Kaya, Doc, may additional source kami na mga naka-plan na. So sa ngayon, may 28 wells kami, pero at the same time, nag-develop din kami ng mga wells. So may kaming dalawa. Then, yung preparation din namin, kasi yung iba luma na ng mga wells. So, ni-rehabilitate namin yun.
To be able to cope up, no? Kasi di ba, Ma'am Ledel, dumadami ang tao, dumadami din ang consumption ng water. Di po ba?
So,
ang demand.
we have to anticipate that demand. And we have also availed of training programs with other water providers. Siyempre, you share your best practices with each other. And we are also very fortunate to have the support of the Japan International Cooperation Agency, yung JICA, napakalaki ng tulong, especially mula pa nung ever since, tsaka mas lalo nung nagsendong. They were a very big help to us in rehabilitating our facilities.
Kasi kaya ko po tinanong sa inyo yan Like for Moresco, they have projections Kaya sila, at the time na mga kagaya ng ganitong panahon na to na mainit dito masyado sa studio dahil wala nga kami masyadong ilaw. Tandaan ninyo, naka-genset kami dito, Kaya pawis sa pawis, sirang-sira yung aming mga makeup dito, sa pagpasensyahan nyo na yan, no? So, ibig ko sabihin, kayo naman, you also project na say, come this number of years from today, with the increasing number of people that will use water, and syempre na-dry up yung wells, tapos may mga luma na kailangan i-rehabilitate. Kayo naman po, you are ready for that.
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay, so ano ang mga tips na pwede niyong ibigay sa ating mga consumers upang makatulong sa inyo?
Of course, water conservation is something that is not just for COWD to do, but for each one of us. And then kasama na rin yung pag-protect ng ating watersheds, ng ating mga water resources, matuto tayong mag-recycle. Siguro nung sendong, lahat tayo natuto ng mag-recycle,
grabe talaga
mag-reuse.
yun.
And then, malaking tulong din yung magre-report sila pag merong mga leakages, tsaka yung pag-repair din ng sariling leakages nila sa
Sa
sarili
loob
nilang
ng bahay
pipelines.
nila, di ba?
Yeah.
Kasi minsan tumutulo na nga ayaw pa rin palitan. Na maliit lang naman na bagay yon, di po ba? O kaya naman, magtutoothbrush lang naman, yung running
Yun.
water, akala
Actually,
mo
napaka-simple ng things na yon, pero yun ang common na kahit sa ating adults. Parang ang sarap-sarap kasi mag-brush na naririnig mo yung tubig. But actually, pagdating naman ng water bill mo, nagko-complain ka na.
O kaya baka wala ng tubig na tutulo dyan. Darating tayo sa ganun. Huwag naman. What about sa inyo sa Moresco? What are the biggest challenge or what are the challenges that you are faced with today? Para masabi natin na heto kami ngayon, heto kami bukas.
Yes, today really is to have a stable supply of power because it's vital. We cannot go forward with the operation without the vital sufficient supply of power. And of course, the high-tech installation of our system, the engineers can actually add on that. Hopefully, if we can have the loop, meaning kahit mawala pa si NGCP, and we have our own generation, embedded generations, so we can still have power because meron tayong sariling linya. So that's actually we envision ourselves na talagang if the lines si NGCP mawala, mayroong ilaw si Moresco 1. So we envision ourselves to be a world-class power provider of choice na talagang hindi na mapursige yung consumer na dito na lang kasi wala nang iba, but dito kami kasi gusto namin.
Yes, yun yung maganda, di ba? I think I like that. Dito kami kasi yan ang gusto namin, di ba? What about you, engineer naman? So ano-ano ang mga challenges na nakikita mo na kayang-kaya namang punuan, and how would you envision yourself as part of Moresco 1?
Well, for Moresco 1 is yung na-mention ni Ma'am Edna, the continuous supply of power. At the same time, yung reliability is very crucial. With the development of Cagayan-Iligan Corridor and the placement of an international airport in Laguindingan, it is a very big challenge for us. But we are prepared for it. In fact, we have different projects. For example, in the distribution line system of Moresco 1, we are adopting the N-1 concept, which is somehow may redundancy sa mga lines namin. Kung mawawala yung isa, meron pang isa. Parang ganun yung nagiging concept. Same time, in terms of power supply plan, long-term yung naging solution namin. And we have forecasted our demand for the next 20 years.
So ganun kayo ka-advance, which dapat tularan ng iba, di ba?
Kasi ma'am, if you're going to have an emergency purchase, mas malaki yung rates kasi emergency purchase. But if you have to lock it out with 20 years, medyo konti yung impact. So, economically viable with sufficient supply of power, that's really our forecast na talaga.
Napakaganda po. At napakabilis naman ng aking oras dito sa Dynamic Living the Totally. Matatapos na ako. Isang katanungan muna bago ko kayo hingian ng inyong mga parting shots. Kung ako, isang ordinaryong mamamayan at gusto ko, kunyari, ang aking anak ay magtrabaho sa Cagayan de Oro Water District o kaya naman sa Moresco, ano ba ang dapat na requirements para, or would you, number one, would you encourage our viewers, to work with you? To send in their children, maybe finish something that they can work with you? O kaya naman, ano bang mga experiences meron sila dapat para pwede silang mag-apply sa inyo, engineer? Graduate ng engineering, syempre. Hindi yung ME, murag engineer.
Sa akin, Doc, is yung educational attainment mo. At yung talagang interest mo sa kung saan field ka na, sa engineering ka man, sa accounting.
Pwede sila mag-apply sa inyo?
Diyan.
In other words, sa inyo po, Ma'am Ladel?
Dahil government siya, so meron kang appropriate eligibility, and desire talaga na maging public servant.
So, hindi po pwede yung, medyo pwede ngayon, hindi pwede bukas, di ba?
Kasi due to the exigency of the service, kasi basic utility yon. So, you have to be always available to serve.
In other words, sa inyo naman po?
We usually hire for character because it's been our core values na yung mga skills, matutunan mo yun but you're gonna change the character. So, no matter how A's are your grades, pero 0 ka naman sa character, so parang imposible yan. So, parang it's really more on really shaping, parang kung yung mga nandoon na is talagang the instinct really is to serve, no? Parang yun ang mas favorable sa amin.
Kasi nga naman, ang attitude, hindi naman basta-basta yan, di ba?
Yeah.
So that will really count for number 1 in our lineup.
Yes.
So what about you, engineer?
Moresco One do hire local talents. Yeah, even myself, I came from Opol, which is part of the franchise of Moresco One. And as mentioned by Ma'am Edna, Moresco One hire especially for characters. And mahirap kasing turuan yung character for an employee. And this is an electric cooperative. It's more on service-oriented. So kailangan talaga namin yung committed magtrabaho for the co-op.
What are the most common complaints na napapupunta sa mga lamesa ninyo? Unahin ito si Water District. Ma'am Ladel, ano pinaka-common na complaint pumapasok sa opisina ninyo?
Mataas yung consumption dahil dun sa leakages. Kasi
Okay.
nga naman, 42 years na rin yung Water District. So meron tayong mga pipelines na 42
medyo
years old
42
na rin.
years old na. What about sa inyo, Ma'am Edna?
No power. And yun, mataas na consumption. Mga ganun.
So, pero na-address naman natin ito.
Yes.
So, tinitingnan naman natin as fast as we can, kasi service-oriented tayo. Salamat na salamat sa inyong apat. I'd like to thank each one of you. Let's start with Engineer Colen. What is your message to our viewers?
Especially for our member consumers, our mandate is, especially our vision, is to become a world-class power provider of choice. And we will do our best to get our vision. And with your help, we are expecting that we will achieve this goal. And for especially this season of deficiency in generation, although we have enough to supply our member consumers, we encourage our consumers also to conserve energy, to conserve power, in order to help our government also with the problem in the Mindanao, especially in the deficiency in generation. And with that, we are very thankful, Doc, for inviting us here in...
Hindi ito last.
Hindi pa ba?
This is just the beginning.
Yes,
Okay. What about Ma'am Edna? What is your message of hope to our viewers?
Yeah, we are actually a believer of when there's electricity, there's development. So we encourage the younger generation to be part of the workforce of Moresco One, because if you're a believer of development, then join us with Moresco One.
Yes. What about Ma'am Ladel?
Ensuring that our water supply is sustainable is everybody's business. So we do hope that each one of you will be COWD's ambassadors for water conservation.
What about Engineer?
Thank you, Doc, for inviting us.
Tabang sila to conserve sa tubig.
Then at least may kunti kaming na-share na information kung ano yung mga
pwedeng gawin nila. And they can always approach you in your offices anytime na may concern sila. Remember po that in the midst of abundance, sometimes it is so easy for us to take for granted the things that are freely given to us. Even during creation time, you know that God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And He wanted us to have water, so there was water. Now remember also that in this plan, each one of us has a responsibility. Hindi lang po yan responsibilidad ng Water District o kaya ng Moresco One or kung sino mang utility provider, kundi tayong lahat, tulong-tulong po tayo upang maatim natin kung ano yung ating gustong gawin sa ating buhay. Magandang gabi po sa ating lahat.